or Cancun or wherever it might be. So yeah, it's maybe something to factor in for last night's loss. But at the same time, this is the trend of the season for the Toronto Raptors. We can talk all we want about how good the record is and how we didn't expect them to be here at this point of the season. All of that is absolutely true. At the same time, it's also true that they've really, really, really struggled against the top teams across the NBA and certainly in the Eastern Conference. The record now against the Pistons, Celtics, and Knicks so far this season is 0-7. 0-7. 0 wins, 7 losses. That's bad. We all know that. You look at how the games have played out. The point differential, 823 to 708, for the Raptors. That's an over 100-point difference. They're not losing close games. They are getting blown out every time out against these top-tier teams in the Eastern Conference. At some point, your record says who you are. Your record tells us what you are, and the Raptors are good with what their record is in the overall, but they also show us that they're nowhere close to being a top-tier team, and they haven't gotten closer as the season has progressed. They needed to be patient at the deadline. I'm not changing my take on that, but I'm just not sure there's much more to evaluate with this team. We know who they are. If they go into a playoff series against one of these teams, yeah, they're going to be heavy underdogs. Anything other than that would be a big surprise. So for right now, I feel like Dennis Green a little bit. You are who we thought they were. That's what the Raptors are. You know, they're good, but they really struggle against the top teams in the East, and that gives them ammo for the summer and how they can improve.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the top teams in the East and their standings, and they are who they are with 4-13 against those teams. Coach Darko Rajakovic was asked about it post-game rather, by Eric Koreen of The Athletic, saying, you are 4-13 against these top teams. What does this say about you? He's like, that we're 4-13 against the top teams. And that's how he left it. You can interpret it how you want, but when you look at those 4 wins, 3 of them were against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have now added James Harden to the rotation. You can think that's a great addition or not. He did have quite the debut with the team, and they are firing on all cylinders. So that is not a great stat also, that the only 3 of those 4 wins were against the Cavs before they added James Harden, and also the other moves they made ahead of the trade deadline. You saw a big issue in the game yesterday, including the other games that they've lost against these big teams in the East, is the physicality of the game. And yes, Jakob Poeltl is back. We'll hear from him in a moment. But when we look at that physicality of how sometimes they were bullied on the court, that is an issue. It may not be the reason, hey, they don't make it long in the playoffs. I fully am hoping for them to have a great long run. I would love to see another championship in the city, as all Raptors fans would. But that's a storyline that I can't help but watch. And that's something that I mentioned going into the game, of what physical game it could be and how will they handle it. Here is what Jakob Poeltl had to say about coming back into the lineup after missing a lot of games dealing with a back issue.
I mean, it felt pretty good. Obviously not perfect. Still trying to find a little bit of a rhythm. Trying to get my lungs back. Trying to find myself again within our offense and stuff like that. But overall, the back felt good, so I'm happy about that. In general, I felt okay, just getting up and down. So I think those are positives I can take away from the game.
We'll take those positives. We will take those positives. We'll take positives. And then just before that, head coach Darko Rajakovic was asked about the team going into the All-Star break, the expectations of this team, and how he thinks that they are when they look at this point in the schedule.
That our best basketball is ahead of us and not behind us. But overall, I think winning 32 games out of first 55, I think it's really good for us and something that gives us a lot of encouragement to continue building on.
So, encouragement to build on. Are you encouraged even after seeing that game where the Pistons were shorthanded? And I am a Raptors lover. I love the NBA. I love seeing the intricacies and the different developments on the court. How are you feeling looking at the Raptors going into the All-Star break? Temperature check.
I sort of agree with Darko in that, like, okay, like we've had a pretty good season to this point, 32-23. You feel good about all of that, but now there's raised expectations. And so the look ahead to how do they take that next step as a team, given that they've come up short against the teams above them in the standings so often, and so clearly come up short against those teams. That's the next step. Darko's always going to be positive. He's got a lot of things to be positive about where they are at this stage of the season, but the work to get them to take the next step is the harder step to take versus, hey, you're coming from the bottom of the NBA, and now you're into the murky middle. But getting into or from the murky middle into being one of the really good teams, that's where it gets difficult. The Raptors were kind of there in purgatory for a while with DeMar and Kyle, and you had some great regular seasons, but you couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. And ultimately, that's what this league is going to be about, and that's what the next step for the Raptors is going to be. So, yeah, the Raptors' best basketball should still be very much ahead of them.
Well, we're hoping for some great hockey today. I know there's a lot of anticipation surrounding Team Canada's men's team finally having some preliminary action at the Winter Games. I'm excited for this. You're excited for this. And Canada, we're excited for this. I am wearing red. Go Canada, go on any of the platforms.
Is that why you wore red today, Linz? Was that it? Did I not get the memo?
Well, you also don't get the memo that on Wednesdays we wear pink. The chat picked up on this. Red. Go Canada, go. We will try for another day. When it gets closer to.
We couldn't even tell what color my shirt actually was yesterday. So.
Today, I don't know. I feel like you're wearing an orange shirt. No, I'm kidding. Is that navy? Are we going with a navy zip up?
It's very navy. Very navy Q-zip. Yes.
All right. Well, before the show, we had the chance to speak to somebody that you're going to want to hear about and from when we talk about the goalie situation with Team Canada, because, hey, there was secrecy about who is going to start in net. And so Team Canada's men's hockey team, their highly anticipated first preliminary game of the Winter Games is happening this morning against Czechia. A lot of questions surrounding who is going to be between the pipes. So we spoke to hockey writer for NHL.com and InGoal magazine, Kevin Woodley, just before the show. Take a listen. Welcome to the show, Woodley. I've been given permission by Dan that I can call you by your last name because we are now BFFs. But I have to get into something before we talk about all of your expertise. Anytime I meet anyone who's a goalie, professional, amateur, casual, why? Why are you crazy that you wanted to be a goalie and still play? Like, it is the toughest position, and I think you have to be a little crazy to still want to do this even for fun.
Well, I was going to say, I've actually played hockey with Reach, and I don't think he calls me Woodley when they're on the ice. I've heard him skate by after goals go in, muttering something about Civ. So this is definitely the most amateur of the amateur levels when I actually play it. You know what they say, those that can't do teach, those that can't do or teach, they talk about it for a living. So I have a passion for it. I developed a passion for it. I actually didn't play till my mid-30s. Ian Clark, the former goaltending coach of the Vancouver Canucks, actually had a magazine that he hired me to write for. And it just opened up a new language, a new world to me. And I just fell in love with the position and play it as much as I can now and love learning more about it. And thankful to all the people in the NHL, goalie coaches, goalies. Like, it just created this language that nobody else was speaking to them. And they totally opened their books to me, and I learned so much, and I continue to on a weekly basis through that communication. So I just love it.
Well, I can't wait for you to spit some knowledge and facts to not only me, but everybody listening, because I loved reading the piece about, you know, the Olympic goalie gear. And we're like kids in a candy store when we're seeing like the masks and the artwork and the new gear that they're having. But I never even thought of the fact that they would need to break this in before going to the Olympics. How much of like a storyline is that, the new gear that, you know, say the NHL players or anybody has to go with the gear to the Olympics?
Well, it would have been a story last time we were at the Olympics in 2014. And we had goalies back then that actually wore their NHL gear, and they would cover it up with, basically it's like a synthetic leather sticker called Pad Skins is the company that makes it now. And they would actually cover up their NHL colors with the Pad Skins for the national team covers, because there wasn't enough time to get new gear broken in, comfortable, and feeling good. And that's totally changed. That's why you're seeing all this new gear, everybody in custom stuff. The way that goalies want their gear to perform now, and how much new gear they get in a season compared to 12 years ago, has them basically able to take a new set out of the box. And in the case of pads, sometimes we're the same day. In the case of gloves, after 3 or 4 practices. So what you're seeing now with all this fantastic new gear, helmets were different. You could always just sort of slap it on as long as they didn't paint the inside of the cage and change your sight lines. But when it comes to gear, this is totally new for guys to be able to just hop out on the ice, 1 or 2 practices and ready to go. It's a credit to the manufacturers. It's also a factor of goalies changing what they want out of gear. They want it to be super stiff and hard. They want rebounds to be active and explode off the face of the pad. They used to want gear to soften up before they were comfortable in it, and that's not the case anymore. Part of that is performance, but part of that is also like guys get an unbelievable amount of new equipment in the NHL on a regular basis. We know of one goalie who went through 34 gloves in a season. And so if you're constantly changing into new, you're used to that new as the standard, that new fresh out of the box feel. And so that's why you're seeing so much new gear. I don't think there's anybody that, there might be a Finnish goalie on the women's side that had to throw some colored duct tape over her pads. But other than that, everybody's in the actual stuff right now.
It's crazy the way goalies feel about this. It's funny how it works for me. Like I get new golf clubs, I still sink. That never changes. So that's but hey, that's a difference between a regular guy like me and I guess professional goalies. But Canada's still got the issue that everybody's talking about. We look at the lines, we look at how everything is set up. Looks like a great team, but everybody's wondering, how's it going to look in net? It was a very similar conversation last year going into the Four Nations. And I feel like Jordan Binnington still has the edge. They, at time of recording, haven't named a starter. But how do you see this playing out, Woodley, for Canada?
Well, I mean, I don't think they take a guy with his numbers in the regular season all the way over there if they didn't intend to play him. Like, I think he'll get first shot out of the gate, and it'll basically be his job to lose. Now, with back-to-back games, the challenge there is the first game is so much more difficult against Czechia, right? And so you expect a test. You could have a fantastic performance in the second game. Let's say it's Logan Thompson, and you might be left scratching your head about whether that means anything because the types of chances he'll face in that one are unlikely to sort of be what you're going to need, come elimination time. And it's funny, I was talking to Henrik Lundqvist last week about what makes the Olympics so special, and he said it's because every game is Game 7, and obviously a guy that excelled in Game 7s, like just the fact that there is no margin for error, and there's a certain amount of. And we can look at their games and analyze, and I do sort of the technique and everything they do between the pipes, but we don't get to see between their ears and how they're going to react to that pressure. And that's one thing you have in Jordan Binnington. We saw it at the Four Nations last year. Obviously, he's won a cup, although it was however many years ago, 2019. The pressure of the moment doesn't change his game. His game, there are strengths and weaknesses, but it doesn't change because the situation changes. And for some guys, it can. And that's the last thing you want to sort of find out when you're in an elimination game, which is why I sort of understand their lean towards Binnington, even if the regular season numbers are like they're not good, right? And everybody says it's the defense in St. Louis, and certainly that's a part of it. He's got an expected save percentage by ClearSight Analytics that's 881, which is like 8 points below the league average. But it's not like bottom of the league, and he's underperforming it at a level that ranks 73rd out of 76 qualifying goalies in the NHL this year, like by a pretty significant margin. So I understand the consternation. The statistics say don't go to him. But when you look at the pedigree and what he's done in these big moments in the past, and the one last thing I'll throw in there statistically, this year, despite terrible numbers, he hasn't given up a lot of bad goals. He's right around league average. As a matter of fact, in a smaller sample size, Connor Hellebuck has given up more quote unquote low percentage goals this year than Jordan Binnington. So, that might be the one thing. If you're not expecting your goaltenders to win the tournament, you just need them not to lose it. As bad as a lot of the other stats look, that's one where Jordan Binnington has been continued to be at least above expected this year and may have a bit of an advantage. He's not giving up the bad ones. It's when things get difficult in front of him. I did a goal chart on him, and there were 24 high glove, and that'll jump out on the NHL.com scouting report. You see that big number 24 over his glove, and it's like, shoot high glove. But the truth is the number that really jumped out to me, 14 along the ice to the left pad, 10 along the ice to the right pad. The number of times he's just out of position and not recovering, and guys are tapping it in, that's the one, if the pressure and the high danger chances get ramped up, that he's got to figure out. And maybe behind a more predictable defense, it will be easier for him to read off that and not get caught as overcommitted on first shots and chances and still be able to recover back to his post to make some of the saves that we saw in the Four Nations overtime.
This is why we call you the goalie guru. It is Kevin Woodley at his best. So now when Colton Parayko scores from the red line in the gold medal game against Connor Hellebuck, I'm going to say Woodley called it on off the roster.
I wouldn't go that far. And like I said, it was a smaller sample. And yeah, you're going to get me kicked right out of the goalie union there, Reach.
Oh, we're trying not to do that. But all kidding aside, okay, so the Logan Thompson conversation's kind of been going on for more than a year now. He's been clearly Canada's most consistent goalie at the NHL level. He gets named to this Canada roster. It felt like a huge hill for him to climb to earn that trust with some of the coaches and the staff on Hockey Canada. Why has that been a struggle? And what has just made him turn that corner in his career where he's one of the best goalies in the league and clearly has been Canada's most consistent netminder across the NHL?
Well, I think obviously heading into Four Nations, it was a lack of sample size. I do think that the fact there were two Vegas Golden Knights current and former coaches as part of that staff that maybe didn't have great experiences in totality when Logan was there, or maybe didn't get to see him at his best or often enough, probably played a role in him not being on that team. It seemed like, reading some of the reports, there's some questions about his willingness to sort of embrace a support role, and he's made it clear that he's willing to do that. But in terms of his performance, ever since he got to Washington, like it's been near top of the league. There was a dip last year after he signed the contract where it dropped a little bit, but then in the playoffs, he was really good again. And that to me was a big thing, right? We talk about how you react in the big stage, in the big moments. Logan Thompson was really good for the Washington Capitals in the playoffs. And so if there were any lingering questions about, would his game change? Would he start to play differently when the pressure got ramped up, when the spotlight got brighter? The answer in that Stanley Cup playoff run was no. His game didn't change. What made him good didn't change. He didn't all of a sudden start chasing things. And one of the big things to me that has adjusted in his game since he left Vegas. And it's ironic. And he admitted to me that he thought Sean Burke, might chuckle at hearing this, but he's basically playing a less aggressive positional game. He's got incredibly reactive hands, amongst the best in the league in terms of staying patient and just using active hands to steer away high shots, not committing into a blocking butterfly prematurely. But he was aggressive in Vegas. And Sean Burke, obviously, we know from his roots with Benoit Allaire and his time there and the way he's coached other goalies, very much an inside-out goaltender and goaltender coach where he wants you to be a little neutral until you read a shot, always be able to beat plays across on your skates. And Logan didn't buy in when he was in Vegas. It wasn't until he left that he bought in. And that's where I think you've seen his game take off. It's a trend around the league. As the play gets more east-west and more dynamic, it's very hard to keep up with it if you're playing up near the top of your crease. So a more neutral initial position, even if he reads shot, he'll come out and challenge once he gets to that point, but he keeps his routes around the crease short, which allows him to beat a lot of things on his skates. And we talk about results. Like when I looked at all the goalies in the Olympics this year, adjusted save percentage. So how good have they been relative to the environment that they're playing behind? Logan Thompson is number one, fifth in the NHL, number one amongst all Olympian goaltenders. Number two is Philip Grubauer, Dan Vladar, Karl Vejmelka. When I go to find the Canadians, I got Binnington dead last and 73rd and Kemper 43rd. Like they're on this. I keep looking down at my sheet. They're on the second side of the sheet. So this is where the consternation comes from, right? It's the fact that relative to environment, like counting how good the defense has or hasn't been in front of these goalies, Logan Thompson is number one amongst all goalies in the NHL at the Olympics. Like that's how good he's been. So to leave that on the bench, I understand why people are questioning it. I think it's possible to say, hey, Jordan Binnington could be really good. He always has been in these moments, or typically has been in these moments, and go with him. But if it's ignoring a guy who's been the top five in the NHL for the last two seasons, that's where the head scratching comes.
Wow. When our other co-host Cabby was here, he would yell something. I'm going to yell in his honor. Talk that talk. Talk that talk. Nailing all the stats, giving us all the information. But I'm going to ask you something right now that most likely will make no sense because I ask random things and I have no idea if it's true or not. So make me sound smart, even if it's a dumb question. But I know in other sports, you'll see athletes come from certain countries, whether it be baseball or basketball, and they have like a kind of a style to their play. Do you think any countries have an identifiable, technique or style when it comes to goaltending?
They do, for sure. Yeah. There are some
Yes.
countries where you can actually, a lot of Finnish sort of people that analyze and look at Finnish goaltending closely can actually tell you what region of Finland a certain goaltender is from based on some of their style preferences, the way they hold their hands, the way they catch pucks. So yeah, you can get really specific. Goaltending has become, like it all kind of looks the same to a lot of people these days. But we do see differences. The Swedes, for example, incredibly proficient in and out of their posts, very technical. At times, I think critics would say bordering on blocking. So do they have the athleticism? That it's a word that gets thrown around poorly because it requires incredible body control and athleticism to be able to move as efficiently as they do around their crease, in and out of their posts, RVH, all those different techniques. But the question becomes, because it's so rooted so early in their development, do they develop some of the more innate reactive elements to their game? And so that's sort of a tag that's got put on Swedish goaltenders. I talked about the Finns, patience on the skates, great skaters, active hands. Like we always think of Finnish goalies as having active hands. We talk about the Swedes maybe getting into a block where they drop their hands to their hips and lose them a little early. The Finns have always been known for their active hands. Russian goaltending, a lack of institutionalized coaching at too young an age. We see this, I think, with the Czechs and some of the other Eastern European countries where they're not being overcoached at too young an age. They learn the skills from a skating perspective, and they don't get the technical elements until they get into their teens. That's shifting a little bit right now, but I think that's why you see some of that, again, I'll go to the word athleticism, even though I hate it. We see more of that reactive game, more of that instinctive game. When you think of the Vasilevskis and things like that, when they go to their gymnasiums, as they call them, their athletic schools in Russia, my understanding is the hockey players are also doing like a lot of physical literacy, the goalies in particular, ballet, things that allow you to sort of control your body at end range of movements. And then it translates very well along with that skating base into their goaltending. So yeah, there's definitely different elements within these goaltenders, and you can sort of pinpoint it by country a little bit. Canada probably falls more on the technical side now. I know that's been a concern over the years. Are we institutionalizing this too much privately? Ironically, the Americans get praised because they built a national program to institutionalize it a little bit on a national scale. In Canada, it's all privately done, and that's where we get into some of the questions about, hey, like are these guys all the top goalies end up on top teams and never facing any shots at too young an age? Where in America, they've institutionalized the coaching, but they've also within that made sure not to stress technical at too young an age, that goalies aren't just goalies at too young an age. So there's a lot of different philosophies on why some countries are having success and others aren't. But for sure, back to your question, you can absolutely sort of pick some trends and tie them to certain countries and areas.
What a great question.
Great
It is
answer.
an excellent question.
You finally asked one, Linz. Nice job. So the Maple Leafs are an interesting conversation before we continue with the country conversation, Woodley. In Leafs land here, it's like Stolars and Wool, they haven't been as good as they were last year. For me, I think they're not playing as well as a team as they were a year ago as well under Craig Berube. But also Dennis Hildeby has kind of burst onto the scene, and nobody wants to lose him for free next year when he's got to go through waivers. So a conversation has started. Should the Leafs trade one of their goalies, maybe Stolars or Wool? And I don't know. I feel like my personal perspective is I would maybe pause on that before getting too hasty, because I know Stolars, when healthy, can be one of the best goalies in the league. And I really like what Joseph Woll has put on paper when he's also on the ice regularly. How would you look at the Leafs goaltending situation going into the back half of the year and moving forward?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends how you look at the year. Like if this year becomes strictly about moving forward and looking forward, then why wouldn't you get an asset for a goaltender if you think Dennis Hildeby is going to be a big part of that equation next year, right? I look at Stolar's game, and it hasn't been the same as the past couple of years, and it almost looks like he's trying too hard, and that can happen when you get a new contract, right? Like, and the way that manifests itself, like, I just said earlier that we can't see between the ears, we can only see between the pipes. But when you see a guy get low and wide in his stance, you think about, I mean, in Stolar's, this is the irony. He's a guy who's always played a little low, a little wide, relied on his size, but that tendency to sort of dig into your edges and add tension, right? Like, Reach, I know you know this from golf. You can't try harder in golf. You can't. Like, swinging out your butt on the first tee usually doesn't work. Nothing in golf works for me, but that definitely doesn't work. As a goaltender, when you try harder, you tend to see guys get lower and wider in their stance, dig in their edges, and add tension. Like, tension is the enemy of goaltending. And to me, he looks like a goaltender who is, when you try too hard, he gets a little lower than he usually is. He doesn't keep his feet under him. He gets locked in low and wide, and he gets a little tunnel vision. He doesn't have the looks off the puck. He's sort of focused only on it. And that's what I saw early in the season for him. Now, does that mean they can't get it back? I would expect when they hit practice with a week of practice before everybody else comes back from the Olympics, that it'll look very much like it did in training camp with Curtis Sanford, very much get back to the basics for the goalies. And he could come out and have a reset and play fantastic. And that's where the risk is, though. But when you look at how Hildeby has played this season, I'm with you. Like, maybe you kick this can down the road to the summer and give it one last shot to see if you can get in. But if you think that's a bridge too far for this team, I don't know how you risk. You always need 3. So you want to keep 3 as long as you can. But when I talk to other goalie coaches around the league, like, Vancouver's got the same problem right now with Nikita Tolopilo. He's opened some eyes. And if they require waivers next year, I mean, you do not want to be the team that gave up the next Brandon Bussey.
Oh my gosh. There's so many decisions to be made and so much information. Like, I'm glad I'm not in an important position like that, but I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show, Woodley. And I also can't thank you enough for in the future helping me in my fantasy league drafting a goalie. So thank you for that.
Oh, as much as Reach calls me the Civ, my nickname in hockey pools is the Donator. So maybe not on that one, but happy to be on the show with you guys. Now, if I could leave you with one last thing, because I forgot to touch on it. Jordan Binnington, as much as the focus and the numbers tell a certain story, do not discount how well he handles and moves the puck and the importance of that at disrupting other teams' forechecks, the importance role that it played in the Four Nations against the Americans in particular. Logan Thompson's not bad with the puck, but he's no Jordan Binnington. Neither is Darcy Kemper. And I do think when you talk about a defense that needs to get out of its end clean, a lot of that at Four Nations started with Binnington, not just making passes, but stopping hard rims that other goalies would just let go around the boards. He's really, really good at that. And I think sometimes we overlook the impact it can have and focus strictly on making saves and start to rip him a little bit that way and lose sight of the fact that he can change the game with the way he stops and handles pucks.
That gave me chills. And you sometimes, all the time, fans overreact on that kind of thing. So thank you for being a voice of reason, putting some moments out there. But we appreciate your time, Woodley. And thank you for not helping me with my fantasy draft coming up.
I'm doing you a favor there. Thank you for having me.
What an absolute legend. He knows everything. I am so much
literally
more
everything.
well
Like, he knows literally
everything.
everything about goaltending. It's crazy.
Everything about all of the things. Just a note, Team Canada's women's hockey team in their preliminary, which is a rematch rescheduled moment against Finland because they were sick with norovirus, like pretty much took the whole team out when they originally were supposed to play. Canada up 5-0. So that's a great start and a great stat right now as they are again playing without MPP. But when it comes to Team Canada's men's hockey team, we're just obviously talking about a lot about the goaltending. Dan, break it to the people. Who's going to start in between the pipes for Team Canada's men's team as they get ready to play some preliminary action today?
Yeah, and it's going to be Jordan Binnington. And I think most of us figured that this was going to be the case. He was the starter last year for Canada at the Four Nations. And whatever I or you or any of our listeners in the chat may think of Jordan Binnington, because he doesn't always have the best reputation outside of St. Louis. And given the way he's played this year, I don't think he's got a great reputation in St. Louis either. But he got the job done last year. And Canada doesn't win that final match against the U.S. without Jordan Binnington absolutely standing on his head. He is not playing well right now as a goaltender. His stats are not good, among the worst in the league for guys that have played as much as he has. And yet Canada still trusts him to start. That's because of his big game mentality and facts only. The guy's got a cup ring. He's also played really well for Canada in big spots. So that's why he is the first choice. And if it doesn't go well with Binnington, then maybe you'll see them switch to Logan Thompson. I think Thompson's going to get game 2. They've already pretty much said that from the Canada camp. But ultimately, it's Binnington's job to lose right now for Canada, which is much to the chagrin of everybody.
Much to the chagrin of anybody and everybody. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Like I said, I have Canada Red on right now. Thank you for everybody in the chat discussing what could potentially happen with Team Canada. If you are not already following us on YouTube, go to the Nation Network, hit subscribe. Hello to Edna, who is watching from LA. I know they're out there watching for the All-Star Weekend this weekend. Also in the chat, we have Justin, who is causing drama, bringing up a swear jar word. According to Mel, you cannot say Dodgers in the chat. Dan, are we going to implement that rule?
I might be dodging that rule. I don't know. This is going to be tough, because I know there's going to come points in the season, and maybe while we're speaking to our next guest, where I start to get angry about the Dodgers again, and it's going to happen sooner or later. That's just it's the way things go.
That team that plays in LA that has Teoscar Hernandez. Everyone's like, that's the name that you're going to pick? Yes.
Yeah. They got Shohei, they got Kyle Tucker, they've got literally everybody on that team.
Why did you have to bring up Tucker? It's still too soon, Dan.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Don't get me angry. Yeah, thank you.
I hope
bring it down a notch. And speaking of stinking, I'm going to go to it right now. I'm going to say this is not segueing to our guest who will be on in a minute, that being Gabe Lacques, who writes for USA Today MLB. We will talk about Chris Bassett, everything in the news, but can we talk about the craziest hockey PR release that I think both of us have ever seen? And we've been covering sports for a long time. The Oshawa Generals, hockey team in the OHL, if you are not familiar with the Toronto area, it's about 45 minutes east. And they've had some great people play for them, including Eric Lindros and a bunch of others. The list goes on and on. There is a little kind of advisory put out to fans, basically saying like, hey, we're excited to see you at the games. When you come here, we'll make sure it's a safe and great environment, but basically keep up your hygiene, put on deodorant. And if you go to the gym or work out before, please shower before going to the game. This is in an actual memo to fans. And I'm like, if you know about the schwa, this is unfortunately adding to the whole storyline about it. But Dan, have you in your life ever seen a release go out to fans being like, hey, make sure to wash those armpits, put some soap and deodorant, and then come to the game? Because if the team stinks, you can't too.
Yeah, just at least give yourself a little spritz of body spray, something, anything after you've left the gym before going to a hockey game. I need to know, like, how bad did it get that the team felt the need? How many complaints did they receive that they felt the need to send out a memo to season ticket holders that has now gone public and viral? To let everybody know that the Oshawa Generals think their fans stink in the like literally stink in the stadium, and they need to wash up better. This is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. I've never.
I read that in the local newspaper today. Someone sent me it. It was like, is this an April Fool's joke? And then I went and looked at it.
It is not. It is not. Like, no, it's very real.
It is real. And it made me think today, right after I'm flying to LA for the All-Star game, when you are on a flight with someone who does not remember to put on deodorant. Like the one thing that was great when you had to wear face masks, and some people still choose to, it's your own life, is that it would cover people's bad breath, including say your own. Like that is amazing.
You put the mask on, you're like, oh man,
and you wouldn't smell the whiffs of BO.
Breath mint.
Oh man, I think it was to Paris when I covered the Summer Olympic Games, the person sitting beside me who potentially was my camera operator, it's like they lift their arms up and you're like, oh my God, just kidding. No.
So
but it was somebody on the flight, and I just remember getting like a whiff of their BO. It was the person sitting in front of me. I'm like, this is like 8 hours of your BO.
That's a nightmare. That is literally a nightmare. But if you're at, let's say you're at a Jenny's game, right? And somebody next to you has a bit of an odor to them, and you're kind of tired of it. It's not the first time. Is there a point where you're like, hey man, think you forgot to put on deodorant today?
Have you ever told someone?
Are you going to get punched in the face, or is somebody going to be like, oh,
in Oshawa, you're 100% going to get punched in the face, and you're going to lose a tooth. You will not tell somebody this at an Oshawa Generals game. It's like, no.
Hey, man.
But the thing is, have you ever told anybody this? Like, I know we have to talk about this. This is too crazy of a storyline. I am a pushover, and I remember talking to Whit when we were taping an episode of 6 Inning Stretch, that when I was flying back from, I can't even remember where it was some Jays game, that the person beside me was listening to their music on full blast. And it was like this annoying, like women's empowerment song. And I'm not saying women's empowerment songs are annoying, but it's just like, it was like this most cliche, stupid lyrics I've ever heard. And I'm sitting in the middle and the person beside me, and we like keep looking at each other, and we didn't say anything for like 20 minutes. And then eventually they turned their music off. So I would be just smelling the BO all day, every day by someone beside me. But are you saying you would hand somebody, like if you had extra deodorant, being like, hey, bro, or maybe madame?
I'm not traveling around with like, deodorant stick, like travel stick deodorants from Dove or something like that. Like, hey man, think you forgot to put on some deodorant today. Here, give yourself head to the washroom and give yourself a little freshening up. Nope, never done that. If it's a really good friend, then I would do it. But otherwise, like, I don't think I would do it to a complete stranger. I talk a big game, Linz, but I'm not going to be the guy at a Jenny's game or at Scotiabank Arena and be like, hey man, I think you forgot to put on deodorant. You might want to go figure that out.
You will definitely get punched in the face, but instead of people having to have that awkward conversation, they instead just put out a massive release saying, hey, make sure to shower and try to have like the most basic decency when it comes to human hygiene, which good on them for doing, because who knew this is where we had to be in today's society. I am someone that's always nervous that I may not be smelling fresh. So I have 2 sticks of deodorant in my bag at all time. And I'll tell you, I'm not a smelly person. We're getting real TMI right now, but it's because when you're sitting beside someone in that nightmare scenario, and you're like, oh, this is awful every time they move their arms. But anyway, shout out to the Oshawa Generals for doing that. And the chat, you guys are hilarious. Let's go back to the Winter Games for a moment, because Canada won a couple silver medals today. We had Elliot Grondin won silver as well in men's snowboard cross today. Canadian freestyle skier star Michael Kingsbury won silver medal in men's mogul event. This is his 4th Olympic medal.
4th straight games with a medal too. It's insane. Like, I mean, we're talking about this guy getting now into Kingsbury. I mean, he already was, it's a reason he was the flag bearer for the opening ceremony here, and he gets a silver medal. And by the way, like, loses by the absolute thinnest of margins. Like, not that I'm some kind of mogul's judge or anything, but he, and I believe it was an Australian, finished with the exact same score. And I don't know what they chose for the tiebreaker, but somehow our Canadian guy, Mikhail Kingsbury, ended up losing on the tiebreaker and ends up with the silver medal. Just heartbreaking, because that should have been, or could have been, Canada's first gold here at the the Milan Games. And that's what Michael Kingsbury does. This guy's he lives to get medals for Canada, and he's up there. I think Cindy Clausen still holds the record with 6, but Now at number 4, Kingsbury is getting pretty close to being, he already is among the best Winter Games athletes that Canada has ever produced. So shouts to Mikhail Kingsbury and his continued success at the games.
We're going to talk a little bit of baseball in a moment. I just want to go back to basketball for a moment because they announced the finalists for the Basketball Hall of Fame 2026 class. Still a lot to be discussed there. I know that Alex McKechnie, who has been viewed in so many in the sports medicine world as like a hero and all this stuff, because he was someone that helped Kobe Bryant get back from, that ACL tear to get back on the court in historic time. He's the one that helped Brandon Ingram currently get back. He was the Kawhi whisperer. He unfortunately did not make the short list, but I'm going to read you a couple names, Dan, because I don't know if you have seen these. So the North American Committee finalists I'm going to go in alphabetical order. There's a lot. I'll list a couple. You have Joey Crawford, the referee.
Okay.
Yeah? You're okay with that?
I don't have any sort of resume to be judging referees and whether or not they should be in the Naismith Hall of Fame. So
that's what I wanted to hear.
Shouts to him.
He's one of the long time serving ones. We'll see what happens there, but you don't even have to give an in-depth, crazy analysis of this. I'm just throwing some names out for you. So I like to view him as an NBA All-Star dunk legend who would go over Kia vehicles. Blake Griffin.
Wow, Blake Griffin,
a Hall of Famer? Do you think he'll get in? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Jeez. Did he get extra points for these Wayfair commercials he's in? I don't know. I feel like I know he had a good career, but I would say he's maybe Hall of Very Good, not necessarily Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Okay.
It's tough. Like
he
almost felt underwhelming as a player because there was so much hype around him when he came into the league.
100%. Because when you think about when he was with the Clippers and then the Pistons, it just didn't feel like he ever lived up to those expectations.
The peak was short. The Blake Griffin peak was short.
That's what she said. Now, on that note, just Joey Crawford, a legendary referee, getting a shout out from our viewer Eddie. When it comes to a coach that's been nominated and made it to the finalist round, Doc Rivers.
Doc. I mean, I guess it tracks, with the Celtics all those years, but you know what? I can see that one. That one to me makes more sense.
With the resume he has, I'll let you know the reaction in the media room for the people that were in there. This is not everyone.
He coached some great teams and they came up short.
His
but
winning record? Yeah, that's what the general consensus was. So we'll see. Candace Parker on there. If she's a shoo-in for me. Like, it should be first ballot Hall of Famer, no question. But we'll see what happens there. And then, before the game, Brandon Ingram and Scotty were recognized. And they also gave a shout out to Glorilla on the big screen saying, hey, you're going to the All-Star game. We'll see what happens. But did you see who will not be participating in the Rising Stars competition?
I did not.
Cooper Flagg.
Why?
Yeah, he got a bit of an injury. He's going to miss. Let me just quickly...
He's supposed to be the most exciting guy going into
I know,
All-Star
given
weekend.
Have
you seen the dunks he's been putting on tape lately? Oh my God, he's posterizing everybody. I mean, maybe
that's what hurt him. It's a foot sprain, so he's going to miss. He's sidelined for that, which is unfortunate because he is awesome. We will be talking baseball in a moment. Also, there's the other random storyline, Kuminga, who left. I actually don't even know if I want to get it.
There's no way it's true, right?
This. Yeah,
there's no way it's
I'll
true.
Let you set this up.
Okay, so I don't even know what happened. There was a report that said that sort of spoke to why the Warriors' relationship with Jonathan Kuminga fell apart. And the report essentially says that somebody in his circle was maybe taking too much food from the family room at Golden State Warriors games. Yeah, like that's the report. Now I think Kuminga put like 1 million laughing faces as a comment on the report, and even Steph came to the defense of his former teammate. But I was just like, how, what, who, where, how does this even originate? But we all know, like, when there's like a communal, this happened a lot in the radio business, where like you knew who was taking too much food from the spread, like there are watching eyes everywhere. And if you are taking your fair share or more than your fair share from the spread of food in whatever suite or media room that you are in, people are going to notice. You may think nobody's noticing. People are noticing. Okay. People are noticing who's taking too much food when there's the communal spread going around.
Oh, 100%. I'll let you know at the Jays game. So there's like a buffet and you pay, and it's supposed to be one lap around. And some of the people from different organizations will try to like stack 6 plates at one or try to go back. Like they got eyes on everything. But I love talking about media food. And we're going to have to ask our next guest where they get the best Mexican food when it comes to ballparks. That is Gabe Lacques, who is a USA Today MLB writer. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Let me tell you, it's no joke at Toronto. I believe Steve is his name, and he keeps a very watchful eye. No seconds, no take backs. Yeah, that was maybe the highlight of the World Series. He's been there forever, and certainly he keeps an eye on the bottom line. But the food's very good, so you should want for nothing once you make one pass through the line there.
I love that you know what's up, and then you knew it was Steve. Like, he runs a tight ship. You will not be going back for seconds, but he's seen some things in the business. But thank you again for joining us. For joining us today. Big news surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays the last couple of days. But for me personally, I'm happy to see Chris Bassett ink a deal for reported $8.5 million, but I'm sad because he's a lovely person to be around when you're covering the team, and he was a huge part of that organization. Can you talk a little bit about the reported deal and what this does for Baltimore?
Yeah, I think it's a great move for both sides. Honestly, my experiences with him have been very similar. Just a guy that always speaks with a lot of candor and is a great leader and has a lot of old school sensibilities. Had a real fascinating convo with him a couple of years ago in Dunedin about feel as it regards pitching and not being addicted to the iPad and just kind of having kind of that old school mentality. And I think the Orioles with both of their kind of big free agent signings with Bassett and Pete Alonso, those are a couple really good guys to add to that mix. And he's going to provide innings for them, and that's what they need. The Orioles have 2 or 3 guys that are in some stage of coming back from elbow surgery, or at least coming off a platform year where they didn't have a ton of innings pitched. So they need a guy to get them 170 innings. He hit the 200 inning mark a couple years ago. That would certainly be big for the Orioles. But obviously the Blue Jays went very high end with their pitching gambits this winter, and that's obviously should work out really well for them. But obviously it didn't leave a spot for Bassett. But I know he's going to be fondly remembered in Toronto, not just for posting every 5 days and giving them quality innings, but of course giving up just 1 earned run in 7 or 8 playoff appearances last year out of the bullpen. That really spoke to the kind of dude that Bassett is and how effective he can be.
Yeah, he was electric out of the pen in the postseason for the Jays, and now he's going to be an enemy. And the Jays are feeling it a little bit right now, like with the news of Anthony Santander. And the offseason started hot with the Dylan Cease signing and getting Cody Ponce as well, and then Okamoto. Felt like the Jays were on their way, but since Kyle Tucker chose the Dodgers over the Blue Jays, that kind of changed a little bit. And now you look at the Yankees, you look at the Red Sox, you look at the Orioles, like the AL East is as stacked as ever. And, it's not going to be a walk in the park for the Blue Jays to defend the AL East championship this year.
No, and it's interesting how the offseason started. You have a year like the Jays did, a stirring run, a 7-game win in the ALCS, 7-game heartbreaking loss in the World Series. It sometimes can help to change up the mix a bit. You never necessarily want to say, okay, we got so close, we're going to bring all 26 guys back. So to get Cease and Cody Ponce and Akamoto, that was a nice signal that it's like, okay, we're going to try to be even better this year. But like you said, the late turn and losing, Bo Bichette, like that's something that can't be underestimated. He was so injury riddled in 2024 and didn't perform well, and the team reflected it. Last year, I don't want to necessarily say the Jays go as Bo goes, but 181 hits last year, fantastic season. A guy that makes quality contact almost every time, doesn't strike out a lot, and hits in the clutch so well. Those are kind of metrics that don't necessarily get a lot of run these days, just because there's so much data available to us, but really are healthy ingredients to a good lineup, and I think that's going to be tough. The thing that jumps out at me is the overall depth is lacking a little bit now. I think they really need everybody to kind of be firing on all cylinders. And the two guys that I find interesting to see how they will do over these particular 162 games are Ernie Clement and Addison Barger, just because they've had flashes over the course of years, and then they had huge postseasons. And Ernie, my gosh, 30 hits in the playoffs. It seems like he's really turned a corner career-wise. And then Barger with a couple of massive blasts in the postseason, and now he's they're both going to be looked to for significant everyday contributions, and bumped up a little bit more in the lineup now that Bo's not around, now that Santander's not around. And I don't want to downplay Santander's absence, but just looking at it year over year, he missed so much time last year that it's not necessarily feeling like a palpable loss from last year. But they certainly were planning on getting some slug out of him this year, so that's tough as well. But I'm curious to see how potent the lineup is without Bichette, and as long as guys can keep continued, can George Springer stay healthy for the course of a year as well? Another big thing, and he's going to have to play on the turf a little bit more now with Santander out. So a lot of interesting question marks, but still a really great group coming back. And like you said, the AL East, very daunting.
Yeah, and it's the offense there, as you kind of touched on a little bit. That's maybe raising an eyebrow for me, getting a little bit of pessimism coming in very early on in spring training here. But it's Vladdy only had 23 home runs last year. He was incredible in the playoffs, but they needed Bo to play as well as he did. They needed George Springer to carry the offense at different points of last year. And now that you've lost Bo, you're not going to get Santander with a bounce back season. It feels like, I know this team is built on pitching and defense, and it always has been under Ross Atkins, but it feels like the AL East, you need to score runs to win games, and that's going to be the thing that's challenging for the Blue Jays, and probably something they have to address before the trade deadline.
Right, and they can still grind you down. Obviously, like you mentioned, Vladdy, and then Alejandro Kirk, very tough out. It seems like he's kind of up and down first few years. He seemed to really turn a corner last year, and this looks like the guy that he actually is. So it's still a very tough lineup to pitch to. I think that's where Springer really comes in too, with that just elite OPS and on-base ability, setting the tone at the top. All of a sudden, things tend to fall in line if he's healthy and getting on base. So and they do have that luxury of let's determine what our needs are come July, come August. Let's see how close we are. Maybe it's the bullpen at that point. Maybe it's the lineup. Kind of depends on the health of guys and whether some youngsters step up in various roles. But it's this is a great time for Blue Jays baseball. They've taken the stance that we're going to be in it every year, regardless, which is really refreshing given the times in the last couple decades where things were maybe a little more static, and you didn't have so much hope, especially when you play in the AL East.
I know anyone that has covered spring training or been to a spring training game as a fan, they'd be a little bit familiar with the ABS Challenge system, which is going to be implemented into MLB full-time this year. I know you've wrote about this. You've spoken on different podcasts about it. What do you think the biggest difference could be that maybe fans will enjoy, or maybe managers? What are your thoughts on this as somebody who's covered this league for a long time?
Yeah, I think it'll turn down a lot of the temperature on umpires necessarily. you hope that people use it correctly and don't get too kind of impetuous with throwing out a challenge when, it's kind of like the old line in Shawshank Redemption, everybody's innocent in here, right? Nobody thinks they threw a ball. Nobody thinks it should have been a called strike. So, it'll be interesting to see the subcultures develop within teams about who gets to challenge. Is it going to be kind of a veterans thing? Are there guys who will be known for doing it properly? Will catchers be more empowered than pitchers to do so because they theoretically might have a better angle on things and also didn't have the emotional impact of having just thrown the pitch? But, I think it should serve the purpose of eliminating the most egregious bad calls. And I think that will go a long way. Not that player-ump relations are bad right now necessarily, but it'll go a long way towards, I think, players and fans appreciating, the job that umps do. Because, you look at those umpire scorecards, if you're 96% correct on, 230 pitches thrown in a game, that's pretty remarkable, And so, if you throw out the couple that they just blew, then that suddenly highlights how good they are. And maybe if a guy gets through a game challenge free, it's like, wow, we really liked how the way this guy called the game. It used to just be you would only notice umps for how bad they were or the things they messed up. Now you might actually notice, geez, I had nothing to complain about that game. Good job, man.
If they say that, I'll be really happy. Nothing good to complain about. Good job, man. It'll be a first in baseball.
That's right.
Obviously, we're very interested in seeing what's happening rather in the American League East. I know both you and Dan have spoke about this, but as someone that, has written about it, you've seen all the injury updates on paper. We've seen the Red Sox, they've added Bo, just even with Baltimore, Chris Bassett news. Who do you think has the best chance to be standing atop of the AL East when, the big moment comes towards playoffs?
Yeah, I lean slightly toward the Jays, ever so slightly. I hate to get caught up in recency bias, and it's
get caught up in it. We like it.
We're happy. We're like, this is great.
You're our favorite guest ever.
It's
talking me off the ledge after a couple of bad days of news here, Gabe.
Right. Yeah, it's overreaction season for sure. Yeah, you look at the way them and the Yankees landed right on 94 wins last year. I definitely could see a scenario where that happens with a couple of teams this year. Everybody has their question marks. Baltimore could be really potent. I think the key guys there, Shane Boz, kind of forgot about him. Great arm coming over from Tampa Bay. If he can stay healthy and harness that incredible stuff, and then the Alonso effect throughout the lineup and the clubhouse might really add a jolt to them in a lot of different ways. And then Boston is really, really mysterious because you lose Bregman, you don't really replace him. You're going to be relying on Marcelo Meyer and Caleb Durbin and guys like that to kind of buff out the infield there. But their pitching is really deep, both the rotation and the bullpen. And what I love about when teams acquire pitchers, such as the Red Sox suddenly breaking from the gate with Garrett Crochet and then Sonny Gray and then Ranger Suarez, suddenly a guy like Brian Bayo is slotted down in the number 4 spot. A lot of pressure comes off of that guy. He has, remarkable stuff. He's harnessed it at various points, early in his career, but there can be a certain residual effect in a positive fashion when you deepen the rotation and lighten the load on some other guys. So I don't really like the way the Red Sox went about their business necessarily, but you look at how they line up. If they get enough offense, if Roman Anthony can stay healthy at the top of that lineup, they can pitch with anybody, and that always gives you a chance.
So I know the narrative after Kyle Tucker signed with the Dodgers was the Dodgers are ruining baseball, and they just sign everybody and they spend all the billions of dollars and nobody can keep up with them after they've won back-to-back World Series. But since then, I don't know, like the Mets did a lot. We've seen, the other teams kind of get in on the action. The AL East has been very healthy and competitive, as we've talked about. I don't know if that narrative, as much as people want to believe it, was necessarily true with the way that the rest of the offseason played out.
Awful lot of parity. And, the Dodgers are so deep. at the same time, you can only throw 9 guys out there at a time. You can only have 4, 5, 6 guys in a rotation. Do the right guys click? Do the right guys stay healthy? There's still so much variance that it's not, it's not the NBA where you need 3 players basically to win along with a strong supporting cast. A lot still has to go right for the Dodgers to win. Think about, how it's funny, as devastated as the Blue Jays fans were about games 6 and 7, just as equally Dodgers fans were like, how in the heck did we do that? Getting out of Toronto with those 2 wins and a repeat World Series championship. And that's after only winning, I think, 93 games. They didn't have a first round bye, for as much as they were supposed to ruin baseball last year. Their division is still pretty competitive. Not sure if any of those guys can stand up to the Dodgers necessarily, but it's going to be a bit of a gauntlet in the NL. The Mets and Phillies will both provide good resistance. The Cubs are right there, and the Brewers are still, the Brewers never make these moves without knowing what the answer is. It's like a lawyer doesn't ask a question unless they know how the what the actual outcome is. You don't trade Freddie Peralta without knowing that there's a pretty decent group in the aggregate that can replace what he gave you. So I don't count the Brewers out at all. You stack all of that up, and that's 2 to 3 rounds of NL playoffs that the Dodgers have to get through. So, regardless of whether they win 111 games, and I don't think they will. I think they'll be right around mid-90s. It's definitely very even, and it's there's not many teams you totally count out this time of year. Relative to typical years. Most teams are trying, and I kind of wonder if they want to put on a good faith show before collective bargaining. Like, hey, the Pirates tried. We signed Ryan O'Hearn. Give us a salary cap. I don't know. I don't know if that's what these teams are thinking necessarily, but it's the effect that it's had is it's brought everybody a little closer to the middle there. So. You take 25 teams that can take a shot at the Dodgers, and there's a pretty good chance somebody might knock them off.
We appreciate your time so much for joining us. And I'm going to quickly apologize because Canadians love saying sorry. I asked you a question I hate when people ask anyone before the season has even started. They haven't even played a spring training game. Like, hey, who do you think's going to win the AL East? But I just wanted someone to cheer up Dan about the Tony Taters news. And you cheered us up. So thank you for that. We appreciate you. And we'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Always appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Gabe.
He's fantastic. Make sure to go read his articles. A lot of great things, including breaking down some of the injuries that have been happening around the league. But Dan, can I have 30 seconds just to talk about the impact of Chris Bassett? Because I actually am so upset that he is not a Blue Jay. We kind of knew this was going to happen. I've been lucky enough to cover this team. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to cover this team for more than a decade. And when people look at Chris Bassett and see how he acts on the mound, they probably think he's pretty intense. I've heard it over and over again. I was asked multiple seasons while he was here, what's Chris Bassett like? Is he a nice guy? Well, the Hound on the mound is an amazing person. And one thing I will point out that, you can look at the fact that he went to the bullpen during the playoffs to do anything to help this team win. I was the person post-game after Game 7 when they lost that asked him if he was feeling a little bit more emotional, knowing that there's a chance he's not going to return here. He was a leader in the clubhouse. He supported and championed the people around him in the locker room, but also was a person that would say hi to the security guards. He would acknowledge us weasels that were media. He was always so kind to me and would take the time to talk about questions if we had them. And I'd be like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's okay. He was so chill. He was hilarious. But one thing I know people may not bring up today about what him and his family did for the Blue Jays Foundation and Blue Jays Care. For every single start he had and they would win, he would donate $10,000 USD out of his own money, and he wouldn't make a big hoopla about this. They did a press release. He didn't want to do media about it, and his wife would do some of the media because he just wanted to give money to kids that would be in need. He was a huge advocate to helping supporting kids in the community that did not have the funds. He would make school visits. He'd go play catch with kids, and he didn't want the media invited. He wasn't about that. He just wanted to make a difference in people's lives when he had this platform and he had the finances to be able to do that. So I tip my cap to Chris Bassett and his wife Jessica, and I wish them all the best because he truly is a great human. And I just want people to know that, because I think a lot of times you look at the stats, you look at the intensity they bring, but Chris is truly a great person. I wish him success with the Baltimore Orioles, just not against the Toronto Blue Jays. Is that harsh?
That's not harsh at all. That's well said. Yes, it's going to be tough seeing him wear Orioles colors for at least next year. But Jays chose to go in a different way this offseason, and happy to see that he is he's still getting paid. $18 million for the year. I think the Orioles got a great deal in Bassett, and Bassett got a great deal with the Orioles. So just hope it doesn't really come back to bite the Blue Jays too much.
Well, I'm hoping that you're going to give people a great deal and help win some money, because it is time for your ProLine pick of the day. The new ProLine app is here. And if you think you know ProLine, think again. This ain't the old ProLine, because the new app, well, you can bet online with ProLine Plus, and also there's betting in store. So it's both easier than ever with the new ProLine app, which has more sports, more leagues, and more markets than ever. Now with more ways to make same game parlays for your favorite sports. Very curious, Dan, where you're going with today's pick. A lot of options.
Well, we had success yesterday looking at the Milan games, and now that the hockey is underway, we are going to stick on that track. William Nylander got one for us yesterday, so we're staying with a Maple Leaf. The U.S. has Latvia later, and we're going with Captain America, Austin Matthews, to score an anytime goal for the U.S. today as they kick off their tournament, and hopefully for us, continue what's been a perfect week with our ProLine picks to this point.
A moment that was not perfect, I think, in the World Series involving the Blue Jays. I saw this in the chat. I also got a notification from my friend that also covers the Blue Jays. Jose Barrios is speaking right now in Dunedin, Florida, as they continue spring training. Pitchers and catchers reported a couple days ago. He officially apologized on the record for going to the DR during the World Series. That obviously was a big storyline. They're saying it's all behind. He apologized for the actions and is excited for a new season with the Toronto Blue Jays and to help them win. So let's get that out of the way. We knew that was going to happen. He would have to address that. But I want you to address a new world record, or record, whatever we want to say today, that happened in the world before we close this episode.
So I couldn't believe this video when I saw it. This guy decided, I want to set the world record for a wall sit, and he has gone over 12 hours on a wall sit. Look at it. He can barely move as he gets up. Look at his legs stopped working. A 12-hour wall sit. What are you doing, looking through the Guinness Book of World Records and be like, you know what? That's the one I want to be. I'm gonna set the world record for a wall sit. That's gonna be my legacy in life. Shouts to you, man. 12 hours. What did you have to use the loo at any point? Did you get hungry? Did you have fluids? I'm so curious about everything that happened with this wall sit.
Who, what, where, why? Those are the things we're taught in journalism school. You're supposed to ask who, what, why is the biggest question out of all of this. When you go through the Guinness World Records, okay, cool. I'm going to sit against the wall for 12 freaking hours. I'm going to imagine he probably took something to help him not go to the bathroom out of any areas of his body for 12 hours and didn't eat or drink. But how, is this your accomplishment in life when you go apply for a job somewhere, being like, hey, yeah, I broke the world record. What was it? I leaned against a wall for 12 hours and didn't take a dump.
Did a wall sit.
Good for you, buddy.
How long can you wall sit for, Linz?
I sit in this chair for an hour a day, and let me tell you, when I get up, I hobble because my back hurts. It is a crap chair, and I need a new one, but I don't want a chair shop, and so I'm just waiting until we get into the studio that's being built right now. So how long do you think you could, lean against a wall? And also, how much money did he make, if any?
I hope he made something, because a 12, honestly, 30 seconds to a minute, that's the wall sit I'm doing. Okay. And it's not like I never exercise. So but wall sits are tough. They are painful. Your legs start to shake. You get all jittery and stuff. It's just like, no, I'm done at a minute. I can't take this uncomfortability for that long. So 12 hours, that's a lot of 1 minutes. So I'm not getting anywhere close to 12 hours. I wouldn't even be able to get to 10 minutes, never mind 12 hours.
We're absolutely going to do a wall sit competition when we're in studio in the next couple of months, because 30 seconds, bro, that is weak sauce. Heard that yesterday.
Lindsay, I saw you on speed skates. You're not lasting very long on a wall.
Are you kidding me? I was hunched down. I'll be fine. That's a balancing thing on weird little sticks. I got you beat, bro. But anyways, I absolutely don't. I'm not. 12 hours is just stupid. I need to know how much he got paid. And I have a conspiracy theory that maybe he glued himself to the wall, because 12 hours is crazy. But you know what's not crazy? Tomorrow's episode, we are going to be talking about the biggest winter games and a lot of moments happening on the ice. And for Canada, we are going to talk to former Toronto Blue Jays and MLB pitcher Jay Jackson. A lot to talk about involving the baseball world and community. And well, there's another surprise, but you'll have to tune in tomorrow because it's All-Star time. We're going to talk to somebody that was really close with the late, great Kobe Bryant and go through some of their most insane All-Star moments that we didn't even know that happened. Now that's a teaser. We'll see you tomorrow on Off the Roster. 12 hours.
Hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more Off the Roster content, make sure to like and hype this video and subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel.